In the blistering heat of the Middle Eastern desert, you, a seasoned helicopter pilot, find yourself at the forefront of a dire situation. The nefarious General Kilbaba has resurfaced, orchestrating a hostile takeover that threatens the entire region. Your mission is clear. Embark on a series of daring sorties to halt Kilbaba's advancing forces, destroy the enemy bases, and rescue hostages trapped in the crossfire. As the dust settles in the wake of Desert Strike, a new threat emerges, casting its shadow over the lush jungles of South America. General Mendoza, a power-hungry adversary with a penchant for chaos, has seized control of a Central American nation. Your expertise is urgently needed to quell the brewing storm before Mendoza can unleash a devastating weapon upon the world. Transitioning seamlessly from Desert Strike's arid landscapes to the Jungle Strike's dense jungles, you navigate your trusty Comanche helicopter through different challenges. The top-down perspective reveals a myriad of dangers lurking beneath the jungle canopy, and as you engage in intense combat, you discover that Mendoza's forces are not only well-armed, but also highly adaptive. In a surprising twist, you commandeer various vehicles, from the nimble motorcycle to the agile hovercraft, to traverse the intricate terrain and confront Mendoza's forces on multiple fronts. The missions are diverse, from rescuing hostages deep in the jungle to dismantling Mendoza's hidden installations. Combining strategic resource management and skillful piloting becomes paramount as you fight to maintain the upper hand. Ultimately, as the smoke clears and the echoes of helicopter blades fade, you stand as a symbol of resilience, having thwarted two distinct but equally dangerous adversaries. Desert Strike and Jungle Strike, intertwined in a compelling saga, become chapters in your storied career as a virtual hero, leaving an incredible mark on the world as we know it. Welcome to Retrotopia, a video game podcast where Sam and I talk about different games from days gone by.
And today we have a double feature for you as we discuss Desert Strike, Return to the Gulf, and Jungle Strike in this special twofer episode.
We'll catch up a little before we discuss the games. Sam, how was your holiday season, and do you have any plans or resolutions for the 2024 year?
Well, holidays came and went. I'm kind of glad they're over, to be honest, and got the Christmas tree out of the house because it was dead. As for resolutions, not much for myself personally, but I think a gaming resolution is going to be to play Chrono Trigger because someone won't shut up about it.
Yeah, I might be a bit of a fan there, and it's kind of become a thing in the Discord. I got burned pretty hard by one of our members there.
Yeah,
I guess I don't shut up about the game. Fuck.
All right, how about you, Brian?
Oh man, I'm glad the holidays are over too. That period between Christmas and New Year's where you have all the family obligations and the get-togethers is just the worst. Like,
it's like the year's taint, isn't it? It's like right between the sack and the butthole.
Yeah, fuck. It's I had to go visit my dad, and there was some drama there. Then, you come back home after a couple of days from not sleeping in your own bed, and your back is like on fire because, your dad's old and his bed is from the Stone Age. So it was definitely a long few days, but I was glad to get home, and I finally got a chance to relax.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, for my New Year's resolution, maybe I should play less Chrono Trigger.
Chrono Trigger and more Sega games.
Oh yeah, more Sega games for sure. We actually did a list. We sat down and we went over a whole bunch of games, and we gave them times to complete so that we actually can slot in quicker games when we need quicker games, and then go for that 50-hour Metabots game you decided to pick when we have time, right? Couldn't believe Metabots was 50 hours on how long, or what's this website called? HowLongToBeat.com.
50 hours really for 50 hours?
I'd
never even looked. I was just scrolling through and I was like, oh yeah, Metabots was a thing. That's cool. It's like robot Pokemon. And
yeah, it's the longest game on our list.
Fucking A. Okay,
well. Even beating out Final Fantasy Tactics by 10 hours.
That's crazy.
Oh yeah. But yeah, we got lots of games coming up, and we've already slotted in a few of them. And I think my biggest resolution, I'm not a big resolution guy, is to kind of not wind myself up so much and start to enjoy things more. I tend to get really, I guess I stress myself out because I put too much pressure on myself to do stuff, and then I don't really enjoy doing it after a while because it just becomes more like work than fun. So this podcast being one of them, I spent a lot of time over the holidays poking around at it. So I'm gonna just sit back, have a little more fun with it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I was listening to Read, Watch, Play today with one of our friends, and they just sounded so calm and relaxed that I just wish I could have that sort of zen in my life.
They do sound calm and relaxed, don't they? Everyone go, if you are not already listening to Read, Watch, Play, you should go find it because it's excellent.
Oh yeah,
And they just
it
did
is
a fantastic
fantastic.
episode on Dune, which is one of my
Uh,
favorite things ever.
yes, they did. All right, so if you want to join in on the conversation with us, you can reach us at Twitter at Retrotopia Pod. You can email us at retrotopiapodcast@gmail.com. You can leave a Spotify, or you can leave a Spotify, fuck. You can leave a comment on Spotify podcast, or you can join our Discord by following the link in the podcast description.
There it is. And speaking of hearing from our listeners, we've started taking comments from our listeners on Discord. So do we have any today, Brian?
Yeah, and first up, well, actually, the only one we have is Sir Francis Cake, the one half of the Read, Watch, Play podcast group. And he says, what are you most looking forward to covering in 2024? And are there any retro games that you're nervous to cover?
All right, you want me to take this one first?
Yeah, you can start with this one.
Okay. I think I could probably honestly say that mine are the same because I'm looking forward to finally checking Chrono Trigger off my list and then reviewing it. But I'm also um,
Yeah,
nervous
and
to
we're
talk to you about
definitely
it.
gonna make you play Chrono Trigger this year
Yeah, but I'm also nervous to
for
talk to you about
goddamn
it.
sure. And we're going to make a special episode about it and make that one person who made me feel bad listen to it and praise it.
Yes, yeah, like
And
Clockwork Orange style, or like hold his ears open.
yeah, exactly. Go down to his
Yeah.
house and he can listen to it. But any games you're nervous to cover?
Well, that was it. The Chrono Trigger too, because I know how much you love it. So I'm just really hoping that I also love it, which I think I will. If it's anything like, um, how everyone has said, Sea of Stars is very like a love letter to Chrono Trigger, then I think I'm gonna quite enjoy Chrono Trigger. Um, and then as
Yeah,
far as like games
they
I'm
do
looking
play
forward, yeah,
kind of alike there, and they're definitely they got a lot of similarities in them, but I mean they're not exactly the same. So you got to give a little
no,
bit of forgiveness on that, right?
right, yeah, of course, but um, yeah, I just have to figure out what format I want to play it in. But I think yeah, that's kind of a weak answer, I think, because they're both the same game. But what about you?
Um, honestly, this episode I'm a bit nervous about because god damn, like we're gonna get into it, but these games are a level of their own in difficulty there, and we only had a week really to play them, and you can't get good in a week, so.
No, not
You
for
know,
these games.
we tried some levels, we watched some videos, we did some research, and hopefully we can make a show out of it.
I think we can. It was a. That's definitely not an easy game.
Oh man, we did have a second question. You can take this one.
Oh yeah, I see it here. Okay, Unbuckled Cape asks, and everyone, if you're not already listening, also go listen to Unbuckled Comics because it's awesome.
Yes, it is.
Um, Unbuckled Cape says, "What is your most anticipated game of 2024?"
I
Um,
can I can
yeah,
answer
why don't
that
you
right
take this
away.
one
Final
first?
Fantasy VII Rebirth, like hands down.
Yeah. Um, I honestly have not paid attention to like we just finished 2023, which is a year that saw numerous releases that I was excited about and picked up. I think most of them at least, but I think I'm going to stick with the same answer. Rebirth. I have not finished remake part one yet, but I plan to do so, and would be looking forward to playing Rebirth. But that's only
Yeah,
because I don't really know what else is coming out this year. I have no idea.
that's actually kind of true. Like once I heard Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, everything else just went blank. But
Yeah.
No, I'm currently doing a playthrough of the Final Fantasy VII remake just to get my mind back in the story there. So hopefully I'll get that done before February. But a lot of other games I have to kind of pick up for other reasons right now. So I'm kind of put it on the shelf for a little bit. I know where I am in the game, and it's a good point to kind of pause and come back to. So it'll work
Yeah,
out.
yeah, you got a lot on your plate there. But
Yeah.
thanks for the questions, everyone. Before we get into the games, what have you been playing? Let's talk about that.
Well, I picked up Lufia 2. First time playing through that game in my life. It's definitely an RPG I missed out on, and I'm having a good time with that.
Mhm.
I'm also playing Breath of Fire 2, not having as good of a time with that. So it's also kind of sitting on the shelf because I can't really do two RPGs at once. I got to pick up Final Fantasy 3 because that's our RPG of this month. So I've played that before, but I need to refresh my memory. So I got to pick that up again, but it should be a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm just playing the weekly game for the podcast. So last week I played Desert Strike and Jungle Strike, and next week I'll be playing Micro Machines, and it should be good. How about you, Sam? What have you been playing?
Pretty much the same, minus Lufia 2 and Breath of Fire 2. I don't think I want to touch that one right now. But yeah, I've started playing Final Fantasy 3. And it's pretty interesting because I did have it on my phone. It was like the 3D remake version where they tried to kind of juice up the story a little bit, give the characters some names, and I think they probably added some dialogue and stuff too. But I was surprised to not see those characters when I fired up the pixel remasters. I was like, oh, this is a little bit different, and I actually kind of quite enjoy it more than the 3D remake. And I
Yeah,
also
I
like not
never
playing it on my
enjoyed those
phone.
3D remakes.
They're very weird. They really tried to, like, I guess, like, quote unquote modernize them for the time, which would have been probably what, like PS2 era, or later maybe. But yeah, they're not the greatest. Play the, either original or the pixel remaster
Yeah,
is the way
it
to
just
go.
goes to prove you can't just update it just old anything or any old game. There, it doesn't always translate well.
Right. Yeah, and then I did play Desert Strike quite a bit. I got a chance to fire up my Genesis Mini, which was really fun because that's on the Genesis Mini too. So I did get to play it with not original hardware, but like an original, like a
As
Genesis
original as you
controller.
can get.
Yeah, as original as I can get, and the controller was fun to play with because it's got the, we'll talk about the Genesis controller a little bit when we talk controls, but it kind of lends itself to a game like this. Um, yeah, and then of course Micro Machines is coming up, so I'm excited to dive into that. That game rules.
Yeah, it's going to be like polar opposite of this game. This game was kind of a slog, but Micro Machines, I just love picking up any. I've played Micro Machines a couple of times in the last year, so I'm ready to go.
It's just fun.
Super fun.
All right, yeah. So before we start our discussion, I will briefly overview the two games we will discuss. Desert Strike, released in 1992, and Jungle Strike, released in 1993, are two classic video games made for the Sega Genesis and ported to other systems. Developed by Electronic Arts, both games belong to the Strike series and are helicopter-based shoot-'em-up games. Created by Mike Posehn after joining EA, Desert Strike is a spiritual successor to Choplifter, a side-scrolling helicopter game for the Apple II computer. Trip Hawkins, president of EA, wanted Posehn to build a game like Choplifter and prepare it for the upcoming Sega Genesis. Desert Strike, Return to the Gulf as it was fully titled, was developed before the American military invaded Iraq and was originally based on the Lebanese Civil War. The game was originally going to be titled Beirut Breakout. During development, the team saw a CNN report of the invasion and decided to shift the game's story and focus. The game was also supposed to feature a point system that would punish players if they destroyed assets, resulting in negative political and economic results. After being poorly received, Posehn had to alter the design to get approval for further development. John Manley, who assisted Posehn in writing the game code, disagreed with some of Posehn's design choices. Posehn wanted the game to be non-linear, but Manley thought a story would guide the player towards solving the puzzles. Posehn didn't like the standard game tropes like bosses or power-ups, so to compromise, the development team only added resupplies like ammo, armor, and fuel. The sandbox style of the game allowed the player to complete other missions besides the main story. Desert Strike was a commercial success, receiving praise from many gaming magazines. The success of this game led to 4 sequels: Jungle Strike, Urban Strike, Soviet Strike, and Nuclear Strike. A 5th sequel was planned, but the game was released as Future Cop LAPD and changed to a mech-based shooter. Riding on the success of Desert Strike in 1992, the second game, Jungle Strike, was released in 1993. John Manley returned with Tony Barnes to create the sequel that expanded on the original. Being EA's first 16 megabit cartridge, the game included an opening movie. With the success of Desert Strike and it being EA's top-selling game, Jungle Strike kept the playstyle and core mechanics of the original. A DOS CD-ROM version of the game expanded on the cutscenes, adding full motion video between the stages and an ending video. Jungle Strike reviewed well and was praised for improving on Desert Strike. Both games were developed with the Sega Genesis in mind, but were ported to other systems such as the Amiga and Amiga CD32, MS-DOS, Super Nintendo, Game Gear, and Game Boy between 1993 and 1995, and as part of the EA Replay bundle in 2006 on the PlayStation Portable.
All right, thanks, Sam. Let's get into it, shall we?
We shall, but before that, we have some comments from our listeners about the games we're discussing. Nomad from the Retro Wildlands podcast says, I played a lot of Desert Strike on the Super Nintendo. All I remember was this drive to destroy as much stuff as I could. I loved being able to fly where I wanted, and I loved slowly wiping threats off the map. It really scratched an itch, and I think that's why I find myself getting distracted by enemies in other games. All threats must perish.
So I don't think I'm going to go hang out at his house if he invites me over there.
Yeah, no, he's just going to mow us all down.
Try to grab that last pork chop off the plate there, and all of a sudden you're a threat.
Well, yeah, he brings up a good point because, when I played this game, I think, either like on a Genesis at someone's house or like, on PC or whatever. I never had it on my own Genesis, but it's like I probably didn't really know how to read all that well and didn't understand what the hell to do. So I just kind of was like, oh, I can fly around in a helicopter and blow stuff up until I run out of fuel and crash. That sounds great.
Yeah,
So,
and I remember playing this game when I was young, and the only level I remember is the first one. So
yeah.
I should tell you a lot about this game already. But that's great. So let's get into the game now. Let's just start out with it. Let's just go for it. How do you feel
Yeah.
after playing this game?
How do I feel? I feel that it does not. This was one that maybe is best left in the past, unless you really want to dive into it and kind of master it, because it's definitely not a game that you can just jump into and enjoy. I don't think.
No, if you like hard games, this game is definitely on the spectrum of really hard games out there. So
Yeah, but it's not familiar hard. You know what I mean? Where like a hard platformer is familiar territory because you're generally moving left to right. You have to do, certain things with enemies, either, shoot them or jump on them or whatever. But this is like, again, here we go, more top down, kind of semi isometric type, but you're flying a helicopter. And so you've got to deal with, you know, the Genesis's best approximation of helicopter physics in 1992, which is
yeah,
can
you're
be
bouncing
challenging.
off buildings and stuff. That always made
Yeah.
me laugh.
Yeah. It's
And the
like,
sound it makes is like the clunk.
yeah, it's just like, you just bounce off and go backwards a little bit.
Yeah, and you spin around. I found out in Jungle Strike there, if you're down to 5 health and you bounce off a building, that's enough to crash you after you do the spin.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
low
oh
low
man,
armor.
and it's just oh god, yeah. No, I got nothing to counter anything you said. Like after playing this game, it is definitely something that a week was not enough time to play, and this is something we're going to look at in the future as well when it comes to games like this, is maybe giving ourselves a little extra time to run through these games. That's why we made that list with how long it takes to beat certain
Yeah.
games.
Yeah, and I wonder what I didn't look it up for this game, but I wonder what that what is that website? It's like howlongtobeat.com or whatever.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna look it up now. Let's see.
Yeah,
Desert
I'd be
Strike.
curious because they might say something like, "Well, 3 hours," but it's like that doesn't
Oh,
take into account all the time you need to like master it and find out where all the little objectives are and where all the fuel barrels are, so you can pick them up and keep going and all that kind of stuff.
yeah, and it's 4.5 hours for Desert Strike, and
Yeah, right.
Jungle Strike is 6.5 hours. So,
Okay, multiply those by like 100 because you're not going to just
yeah,
pick it up. And yeah, you can beat it in that much if you spend all the time mastering it first. But it's not like like an RPG where like a standard, a typical RPG or an easier one you can run through and you set it down, you come back to it and that kind of thing. This game, like there's a password system, but you're not beating this in 4 hours. No way.
no, not in your first go through. You really got to get good. Then you can probably beat it in maybe like 10 hours your first time. But that site's just literally if you're perfect, like 4.5 hours through. Or I think it's actually based off of what players report who've actually beaten the game.
Yeah, and those are people that were like, "Oh yeah, I'm good at Jungle Strike and I know where all the shit is, so I can beat it in 4 hours." Of course you
Yeah.
can.
All right. So that basically covers our first thoughts. What did you think of the graphics?
They're actually pretty good. I mean, I try to always when I play these games, I try to place myself in the obviously the time that it was made, and for the early '90s, I think or Desert Strike was 1992. Um, really good. The vehicles looked distinctive and detailed, and the helicopter looked great. Especially as it like rotates and banks and stuff, like you can see like the
Rotates
full
and
range
banks.
of
You mean
motion,
bounces off rocks?
or bounces off of shit, or like crashes and burns, like and like
Yeah.
the little cutscenes in between, like the briefings looked really good. um they were just mostly still images, but they were very, very detailed, you know, still images with words underneath. That looks
Yeah.
pretty good.
They kept it looking good for its time. I mean, like you said, you got to compare it to games of the time, like 1992 games. So uh, I kind of looked at it on the Genesis versus the Super Nintendo, and as always, the Genesis just kind of looks a little bit better.
Yeah,
Uh,
little more detailed probably.
Maybe it's just the Genesis was really the superior system, and we all as humans decided to pick the weak one, kind of like the VHS beta thing.
Well, it's also like the Super Nintendo was the port version, because this game, as we did our research, was developed specifically for the Genesis and then
Yeah,
ported elsewhere.
yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. Built for the Genesis, yeah, ported over to a whole bunch of stuff, including the Super Nintendo, and yeah, it definitely looked better on the Genesis. And yeah, Jungle Strike. Well, let's go Desert Strike first. Desert Strike was all desert levels. Jungle Strike had kind of a variety in them, but it was
Yeah.
all green most.
Yeah. Well, there were I was watching, I didn't actually um play through a whole lot of Jungle Strike, but I did watch, I watched playthrough of some of the levels that I obviously can't reach, but there's one that was like a snow level that I thought was pretty cool. There's this one that we can talk about later, that there's like a lightning storm going on over the jungle, and it's like I don't know how you would be able to see anything. There's like shit hidden in the trees that's like shooting rockets at you and stuff. It's pretty nuts. It gets really intense.
We'll get to that eventually, but in the gameplay there, you're a helicopter pilot, so
Yep.
they put you in the role of the helicopter pilot. Ergo, you are the main character of the game, and your sweet ass helicopter pilot skills needs a partner there. So you get a co-pilot, and we were discussing this before the show, and we didn't realize right up until the show that the co-pilots actually affect your stats.
Yeah, and not in a way that you can see. Like it doesn't. You don't have like status bars for your your winch ability or your aim or whatever. But yeah, apparently each one influences the way that your chopper responds in each level.
Yeah, and everyone just kind of has a name and then a call sign there, and you just read the text that's there. Like for an example, you get Lieutenant Xavier Thomas or X Man, and his text is X Men is great on missions with a little hostile fire. No one is better with the winch, but his marksmanship leaves something to be desired. So you read that, and you obviously realize that his winch skills are great, but his shooting sucks ass.
Yeah, so what happens then is like you're going to be able to pick stuff up with either like the little ladder or like the supplies and stuff. But then he's going to like not hit anything that you're trying to shoot at, which
Yeah,
I
and
found. Yeah,
I used the default guy. That was the default guy for Desert Strike there, and yeah, it's true. Like there's times where you're flying trying to hit those ground air missile uh, launchers, and you're doing sweet ass helicopter maneuvers, and you're missing every friggin' shot because this guy
yeah.
can't hit the broadside of a barn.
Yeah, and I thought that was a fault of the game and not just the dumb co-pilot that I had. But like, there were definitely times where it's like I am just unloading on this little turret that's firing missiles at me, and I can't hit it to save my life. Like I'm like right next to it and pointing the bullets at this thing, and it's not. They're like falling short.
Yeah, it's like stormtroopers in the friggin' front seat.
Yeah, for sure. Like this guy needs some glasses or something. Like I don't understand. Like he's like short sighted or whatever. So it's like they're not even making it.
Yeah, if I'd known the co-pilots actually changed your stats, I might have picked somebody else. But I really can't comment on anybody else because I stuck, like I said, with the default because I didn't think it mattered. I thought it was all aesthetics.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things is like at least one of them is missing in action, and so I think you can find him somewhere in one of the levels and pick him up, and then he's
Yeah,
available for the next one.
yeah. I think he's a POW in the second or third level of the Desert Strike.
Yeah, but he's a crack gunner and a superb winch man. And
Of
he
course,
also knows
he's.
the best places for R&R, which I don't know if that's just flavor text or if that's actually a thing.
I
But
imagine that part's flavor text, unless he's giving you handies in the copter there.
oh god, yeah.
I'm not. That's not what I need to know about.
Yeah.
But speaking of the helicopter, so let's get into the vehicles here. And Desert Strike, you're riding one thing. You're in the Comanche helicopter. I think it's Comanche.
Comanche.
Comanche? Ja.
Comanche. You gotta say that like a Yankee.
Oh, okay, yeah. I always thought it was an Apache helicopter, but apparently I was way off. But anyway, so you're in the, what'd you call it? Comanche?
Comanche.
Comanche? Okay, you're in the Comanche helicopter. You got machine guns, Hydra rockets, which are smaller, like mid range rockets, and you got Hellfire missiles, which are your like big rockets, which kill things, but you only get so many of them. But that was the problem with Desert Strike to me was, I know it's a helicopter game, but you're really just helicopter level after helicopter level, and it always looks the same.
Yeah, Desert Strike is very, very samey.
But it's
And
the
and
first in a series, so you got to forgive it for that.
yeah, I do forgive it a bit, but like yeah, it's down to the point where it's the same exact map where there's on the the lower left hand kind of corner of the map is water, and that's where your boat comes with the helipad on it. You launch off of that, you go
But
take
you
care of
can't
business.
land on that. Can you land on that helipad? Did you try? Because I tried and I just kept bouncing off the ship. I thought you could land there to like fix your armor at the beginning.
Oh well, you launch off the ship, and then once
Yeah,
you
there's
complete, it comes back. But I don't think you can land on it after that.
because I know there's the landing pads like on the shore there,
Yes.
but I don't know. Maybe my memory's sketchy from my childhood and all the juice boxes I drank. But yeah, I always remembered being able to land on that to fix your armor because most of the time I was flying around with like absolutely no health left over. Left
Oh
over.
yeah. Well, I found what was the longer that you were on the helipad, the more armor or health or whatever you got back. So if you picked up a bunch of the little dudes that were, like the MIAs or whatever that were out in the sand and then came back and then, each one individually has to like exit the chopper and go walk over to the landing craft. That gave you more armor back because it took longer and you were sitting down
Oh,
for longer.
maybe that was it. Maybe that's why I kept dying because I'd pick up one, go drop him off, and go back and get hit 500 times and repeat that process.
Yeah.
No, Jungle Strike had a bit of a more varied vehicle.
hmm
What do you call it? Selection. So you start with the Comanche helicopter. Comanche. Fuck. I'll never get that word. That's going to be my word. We'll never repeat it again.
Yeah.
So you get the helicopter to start out with same loadout as Desert Strike, and then throughout the game you'll have missions where you get a motorbike where you drive around. I think it's Washington. You get the motorbike, like one of the Washington levels, and then further on in the game you'll get a hovercraft, and then finally you'll get the sweet ass stealth F-117 stealth bomber.
Yep. Um, yeah, I had to watch gameplay in order to see a couple of these. The hovercraft looked like it sucked. It just had like
Yeah,
a gun on it and then you could drop mines, but you were up against like these giant, like speedboats that had like, guys with guns on it. And then like there was one point where there was like a couple of big submarines. And it was like all you got is this little hovercraft with a gun on it.
yeah, like you definitely want to be in a hovercraft instead of your sweet ass helicopter.
Yeah, like it kind of feels like I could have just flown the helicopter over that bridge and
Yeah,
taken care of business.
I I put the codes in to try to get all these vehicles, and I failed to get even one of them. So I can't even tell you how they handle or how they feel. So I did the same as you. I jumped on a video just to have something to
Yeah.
say about them. And
Yeah,
the
because
motorbike,
they weren't right at the
uh,
beginning. You had to like do an objective or something in order to find it.
yeah, like the motorbike, you have to like secure the police station, and you land on the helipad, and you get on the motorbike, and it's just same as you're in the helicopter. You're just driving around on the ground. Same thing with a hovercraft. You have to free it, then you land on a helipad, you jump in, and then again, finally, the F-117 is underneath some netting. You have to, destroy the netting and the people around it and all the ground-to-air missiles, and then you can jump in the 117 there. And even though they're different vehicles, reality is they're kind of the same. They just handle a little bit differently.
Yeah, and it was funny that you mentioned that the F-117 is under netting. It was like watching the playthrough. I was like, how the fuck do you see that? It's like green on green, and they just like shoot this random spot, and then there's a plane there and a
How do you think
helipad.
planes are built?
Oh man, and then like it is very stealth. But then like the F-117 looked like it would have been kind of a challenge because it's like a completely different. Obviously, it's a plane. It's not a chopper, so it doesn't hover.
Well,
So
yeah,
you really
that's
have to.
I guess the big thing is the 117 you can't stop in midair. You always have to be flying around, and you still
Yeah,
have the thing where you can fly into stuff and bounce off them. So
it's kind of cool though because it really changes the dynamic. Because once you got that, you had to like destroy a series of bridges, and so you really had to like plan your approach and hit it on the way past. And then if you miss it or whatever, you got to go back. You got to bank and come back around and
yeah,
yeah.
anecdotal story. When I was a kid, we had a air show. I lived right off of Air Force Base here in Canada, and
Mhm.
the 117 showed up, and holy fuck, security! Like they had it roped off, and they had the armed guards who'd walk in the rope, and if anybody even touched the rope, the friggin' American would be over there. He'd be like, "Get your fucking hands off the rope!" And he yelled at a kid. One of them yelled at a kid. It was awesome.
Oh, was it you? I just
No,
imagine
no, it
like
wasn't me. I was too scared. Like
oh,
these, yeah.
I just
That
imagine
one
like
American soldier there who's like pretty much 400 pounds of just pure muscle.
oh yeah.
Yeah, he showed up, and I was scared of him.
Oh, I just imagine like little tiny Brian like I'm in danger. Like
I pre-peed my pants.
yeah.
Just get it over with a little bit quicker. No, I remember actually seeing one though, and it was actually pretty cool. I mean, I remember back in the day when they revealed that from the actual Desert Strike.
hmm
They started talking about this airplane, and all of a sudden the posters started showing up and stuff. And I was like, "Oh my god, look at this thing! It's all blocky, and now we'd call it like a Minecraft build or something." But it was all straight lines and stuff. It was so futuristic.
Oh yeah, and like the bomber that had like the really wide wing, like the one that's like a almost looks like a like chevron shaped, like a big wide triangle.
Oh, you're talking about the B-2 bomber there,
Yeah,
the
that's
big
the
one that
big
has
bomber.
like no back horizontal stabs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, that was the like. I mean, I had toys of all that stuff when I was a kid. Like, just it came out that they existed, and then they were just everywhere.
yeah. Oh man, like that's probably how they ended up paying for them as licensing and stuff like that.
Yeah, like okay, we got to pay for this thing. Let's make them into micro machines, and
Yeah, we
like
crashed one. We need to buy another one. All right, here we
yeah,
go.
all
Hot
right, model
Wheels.
kits. Let's go.
Let's give away the state secrets. I imagine by that point, I always assume America has like airplanes or military equipment that the rest of the world doesn't know, and then when shit hits the fan, all of a sudden, like America's going to transform into Optimus Prime,
Oh
like the
yeah,
whole
just
country.
yep. And the Washington Monument is our dick.
Too bad you don't have the Obama monument.
Oh yeah, what was that from?
That's Family Guy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're going to be like Canada will be like the wings on the back, the add-on there.
yeah,
But we're off topic. That's because it's more interesting than these games.
yeah. It can be for sure.
Yeah.
Although
But
Jungle
speaking
Strike
of
had like a cool. We'll get into it, but yeah,
yeah,
we're talking
so
about
speaking
controls.
of Canada controlling the United States through our wing power, how'd you find the controls in this game on the Genesis? Because that's what you played it on. I played it on the Super Nintendo, so I'll talk to that one.
Okay, yeah, I liked playing it on the Genesis because the Genesis had that D pad that had the extra, like the diagonal um, directions on them
No
a little bit
fancy.
more. Yeah. So I thought it was easier to rotate the chopper around without like kind of thumbing the gap between two directions. Um, but I have to walk back my initial like beef with some of the controls because I was like, well, what the fuck? I'd be like right next to this thing and like pelting away at it with missiles and they're falling short. Well, now I just realize that it's goddamn X-Man and he can't hit the broadside of a barn. So
Yeah,
like
right.
that fucker really messed with the controls for me. So yeah, the controls are great. X-Man sucks.
I'd say I'd go back and take another crack at it with some of the other co-pilots, but I'd be straight up lying, and I'm not going to do that on this
I'm
show.
not gonna. I
Yeah,
might.
no,
I
I
got
think
that. Yeah.
yeah, that game's going to be tucked away into the history books and never to be seen again. It's going to be like a Toronto Maple Leaf Stanley Cup. Nobody's going to talk about it or see one again for like 60 some odd years.
I might play it again. I don't know. I've got that Genesis Mini, and that's kind of fun to fuck around with and play.
Yeah, that's
Like
true.
a random game off of there. But
Yeah, no, the
other
Super
than that, I
Nintendo.
wouldn't seek it out.
No, the Super Nintendo controls were kind of honky tonk bullshit. To be honest, like again, you said the X Man there, he was suck. He sucked for aiming and stuff like that. But God, I felt like I couldn't. When I was watching the video of the Genesis playthrough, he was shooting missiles and the gun at the same time, and you couldn't do that in Desert Strike on the Super Nintendo.
Oh, really? Yeah. Like
No,
whatever buttons you were pressing, it was just like it was unleashing.
like I was pressing down both buttons there, and nothing was happening. Like
Hmm.
I'd fire off the gun, and if I pressed the missile button, nothing came out, and then vice versa, of course. So a lot of times when I was, missing the broadside of a barn there, I try to fire a missile just to get out of danger, and nothing would happen. So down I go.
Yeah, that was another um, thing about X-Man was like if you're missing so much, you're also like running out of your missiles. I typically didn't run out of ammo in the machine gun, but
No,
those two rockets or the rockets and the missiles were out like all the time, and it like you'd go into something like you're gonna go destroy one of the objectives or whatever, and then you come up on something and you're like, all right, let's light this thing up, and it's like that like that like click sound. You're completely empty. It's like, oh god damn it,
yeah,
not
and there was
again.
nothing on screen to tell you. You had to go into your mini map to see how many missiles and bullets and crap you had left over.
Yeah, that's one thing I would have liked in this game, and they didn't even improve on it in or Jungle Strike because they didn't add it. But like to have like a
No,
heads up display with, like it doesn't have to be huge, but there was
no,
plenty of room on the screen to have like a fuel gauge and how much of your rockets and all that shit
at
you
least
have.
have the option to put it in. Like
Yeah.
some of the options you have in this game, like your helicopter drifts on the default setting. So if you're turning, your helicopter will continue in the original direction until you kind of guide it to where you want to go. And you can actually remove that drift, and the helicopter will actually stop when you let go of the D-pad, and it'll pivot on the point, so you can still move and turn, but you
Yeah.
won't have that drift, which causes a little bit of I don't know. I guess some problems there, like if you're trying to avoid a big building, because they're really hard to miss, at least for me.
Yeah, just going
But
right into it.
I actually found the game played worse when you removed the drift. It didn't feel right.
Yeah, I think that was I did play around with that a little bit. You go into the options screen and you can change your control setting to like cockpit. And I thought like, oh, is it a cockpit view? Like that wouldn't be
Oh
good to play,
yeah,
but it could be interesting just to see. But all it did was like it just changed the center point of the helicopter
yeah. So
like
you
up to the
pivoted off the
nose.
cockpit, which again was a mind fuck because it didn't
Yeah.
feel right.
It's like going from like rear wheel to front wheel drive.
Yeah, and you can't drive either because you don't have the license, right? Yeah, no, um, no. Not much else I can say about the controls. Like I said, I never got a chance to get the motorbike, the hovercraft, or the 117 there. So all I saw was like the super player online, just master those things right away.
Yeah, it makes the game look super easy
Of
and
course, yeah, he finished it in 3.5 hours, and it's supposed to take 6.5.
yeah. Actually,
Yeah, maybe slow down a little bit. I was watching it at 2 times speed there to try to get through it. I was like, there is no fucking way I'd fly the F-117 if it was going this fast. I would just die then until I realized I was watching it at 2 times speed there. And
oh yeah, it actually like for like a jet plane, it doesn't really go that fast, which is
no, it
probably good
is
because it would be
super. It's
impossible.
no faster than the helicopter.
No, it's like a really slow roll that it does.
Uh, just it always goes forward is the only difference. But
Yeah, so you have to.
yeah,
It's
so
a
no
lot of.
commentary on those three vehicles there. The motorcycle looks like it handles like a motorcycle. You're on the ground, so no fear of crashing, but still run into buildings, and you just turn on a pivot point. The hovercraft was the same thing, no drift in the hovercraft, but it handled a lot like the helicopter, only, it would run into things on the ground. And the 117 just kept moving forward, and that was the only difference between that and the helicopter, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, what did you think of the music in this game?
There was only music on like the menus and the briefing screens, but like that music was good. I mean, it sounded good. But in the levels there was absolutely no music, and they were like too quiet.
They're
There was like
bland, yeah.
no sound.
Yeah, going through the albums there, like I found two albums. Was it for this game? Yeah, I found both the albums there, and going through the music, I couldn't find anything really usable for this episode, so I found what was tolerable.
Yeah.
But that would what you've already heard us play is basically the best of this soundtrack. Everything else is just like synthetic, just somebody slamming their head on a keyboard kind of sound.
Yeah, it's pretty messy sounding. I think they tried to make it like like a speed metal, like intense action movie type thing, and it just sounds kind of mushy. And there, it's
Sounds like
only in a couple parts of the game
Yeah,
anyway.
it sounds like somebody had a great idea in their mind, but the technology just wasn't there yet for them to, play the music of their heart.
Either that, or they just didn't develop it for the like MIDI type sound that comes out of the Genesis, and they actually composed like a real song and then tried to convert it from that. Like I don't know if that makes any sense, but
I don't know. Like
it's like
we were talking about sound engineers earlier, so maybe we'll
yeah.
go find one and they can yell at us.
Yeah, they can yell at us for they can yell at me for they can yell at me for my setup too. I don't care. I don't have a whole soundboard.
Yeah, exactly. Like, who do you expect us to have a full studio already? Geez, we just started. Come on.
Come on.
All right, so frustrations with the games. I got four things here, and I'm just going to list them off real quick, and you can sound off whenever you have an opinion to throw in there. But I found a lot of frustration with the controls, and we went over why. The difficulty destroying some of the enemies, like some of
Hmm.
them were way too tough.
Those little rocket launcher guys were real bastards. Like
Yeah,
you destroy a building and there'd be like a little like there are little tiny soldiers that you can just like shoot and they'll die or whatever. And then there's I don't know if they were like I think the rocket launcher was yellow, but it was really
yeah.
distinctive that you could tell that it was a rocket launcher guy, but they could just like totally fuck you up.
Oh yeah.
And the bullets didn't really do much to them.
No, and then you know those towers that were around the level, like
Yeah.
the sniper towers, and then you'd be trying to blow that up while a guy like takes you out with a friggin' pistol.
Yeah.
You're sitting there shooting like one bullet every half second, and then you're like you're going around them again, sweet helicopter maneuvers, and you're shooting the ground. And it's
Yeah.
like, what the hell are you doing next, man?
Yeah.
And then I remember one time I went to one of those towers, and he took up my helicopter twice.
Yeah.
I was just done for the day. I turned off
Yeah. And
video
you,
games. I turned off the TV. I picked up a book, and I was just like, "That's it."
I'm done. Yeah.
Never
Those,
again.
that annoying sound when like you're running low on armor. It's like doot 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 doot.
Oh
It's like
God,
all it
yeah,
is a guy shooting at you with a pistol.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's all you hear, and all of a sudden, one just nicks the back blade, and you just down you go.
Yep.
I mean, that guy gets like 400 medals for taking out the ace pilot.
Right. Yeah. The only
Um,
helicopter that we have that can do all this stuff to prevent a war.
yeah, because America's known for their one helicopter.
Yeah.
The learning curve in this game is another frustration I had. Like, again, we didn't have the game manuals, and I keep forgetting to like pop on real quick and just read the manual before starting to play some of these older games. But for picking up the game, there was really no information what you had to do, like how you had to find your targets and stuff like that. Like the mission briefing would run over everything you had to do, but to find it, you'd have to open up your mini map and you'd scroll through and it'd give you the information of your targets, so your different missions, where the ammo and the fuel were, and all that kind of stuff. And it still had a
Yeah.
big learning curve because I died so many times just trying to finish the first objective.
Yeah. That pause menu with the map was actually pretty helpful. It was just really cumbersome because you had to sift through like each time you went left or right, you would kind of sift through the different objectives, and then it would show you the location of all the oil drums and the MIAs and the the armor or the ammo and the places you could land and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, oh, it's so easy to get lost. It's like, where do I go next? Oh, I got to open this thing again and sift through until I find the right thing and
Oh
see if
yeah,
I
and
can
it
get
was
myself.
like a hard
Yeah.
stop too, like when you opened it up.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, okay, get my bearings set and try to get myself pointed in the right direction. And oh, nope, I
Yeah.
got shot down.
I honestly really wish, like, I know it's kind of a cheap thing if they're going for realism, but something you could pick up that would kind of replenish some of your armor there, because having to go back and land all the time, like on my way back, I'd usually get shot. And I know it was part of their design not to do that, not to have a lot of pick up objects.
Yeah.
So it was kind of frustrating there, especially if you have to go find like ammo and you're down to just your gun and you're like shooting a building, and then of course you get one of those rocket guys and he downs you.
Yeah. Those rocket guys are such little fuckers.
Oh, they're dicks, and they take more shots. Like, you know, Superman right takes less bullets to kill.
It makes no sense. I mean, you were in the military. If you had a rifle, and then there's another guy that has like a bazooka. Is that guy a stronger guy?
Oh, immediately he has a 12-inch penis and he can take so many bullets.
He's like a he's like a he's like Hercules and
Oh
like
yeah, the
the
rest
other.
of us we just sit there and we just we bend down and we just pray to him.
Yeah, basically.
The bazooka guy is our god. All right. Um, do you want to get into the plot of this game? Because they actually have plots.
Yeah. So Desert Strike, there is a self-proclaimed leader, General Kilbaba, who invades one of his neighbors in the Persian Gulf, which is kind of funny because it's like this is just, I mean, kind
What,
of
as you heard
exactly what
in
happened. Yeah,
Yeah, as you heard in the game description that you gave earlier on, this was actually on purpose because the game
yeah,
was actually being fictionalized at first, and then Desert Strike happened. They're like, "Hey, that's a good idea," and they're going to send that one helicopter we have anyway, so we might as well mimic it.
yeah. It's like they're coming up with a scenario, and it's like, oh wait, that just fucking happened. Okay, cool.
No, that's
Um,
literally what happened.
I know. Except it
Jesus,
was Iraq and Kuwait instead of
yeah,
two fictional countries and General Kilbaba, which is
I
just
love
kind of a
General
goofy,
Kilbaba,
it's a goofy ass
Saddam
name.
Kilbaba.
Um, so yeah, a small but wealthy emirate where he installs himself as dictator, and then he fortifies the emirate with weapons and installations, and the U.S. sends in an ace helicopter pilot, to infiltrate the country and destroy Kilbaba's forces quickly and effectively and
Oh
without
god, I just
prejudice.
love how it always like, oh, there's only one helicopter pilot that can do this, and like
Right.
400 helicopters are sitting on a tarmac somewhere, and all the pilots are like, oh, I wish it was me.
Well, it's like it's just action movie. It's just
I know,
cheesy.
like
It's
this is
cheesy action
Airwolf.
movie. Yeah.
Like if you were born in the 80s, you'd know what Airwolf is.
Yeah.
But
And
no, it just maybe it's not the same pilot every time. Like the one crashes and they send out another guy, and everybody's just kind of lined up with like pick a name out of a hat who's going next.
yeah, and then they've got X-Man on the guns and they're like, "Fuck, I'm going to
Like,
die."
yeah, he keeps surviving, and they keep
Yeah,
grabbing
they
a
keep
new
picking
X
them
Men.
up.
Like X Men, jump into my helicopter. I don't feel like hitting anything.
Yeah. You
What
want
a,
to talk about
what a,
Jungle Strike? I actually like Jungle Strike's plot way better.
yeah,
It's
Jungle
so
Strike is
crazy.
actually it is a true sequel because in Jungle Strike, you got two antagonists. You got Ibn Kilbaba, the son of the Desert Strike's antagonist, General Kilbaba, and Carlos Ortega, a notorious South American drug lord. In this game, this starts out with a nuclear explosion on an island, and the two men are watching, and then they discuss a delivery of nuclear resources while planning an attack on Washington D.C. Ibn is looking for revenge for his father's death, while Carlos wants the U.S. to stay out of his drug trade.
I fucking love this. This is a Nick Cage movie. Like what what
Nick
the
Cage,
fuck
this is
kind of
Arnold
crazy?
Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, it's just like this is like just crazy like turn it to 11 action movie. Like no way. Like some god damn, what word am I looking for? Uh
Well, this
you,
plot
yeah.
doesn't seem to fit this type of game. This is something like you'd have a side-scrolling shooter or something like that. That's how I feel about this story.
Yeah, well, I guess it is kind of a shooter. You're just top down in a
Well, I mean,
helicopter.
I'm thinking more along the lines of Contra or something.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely has like a cheesy like action game feel. But yeah, just like in no way would like this, you know, guy from the Middle East and this like South American drug lord team up. Like they would
Yeah,
never even like be talking to each other. And then like their answer for like this guy, like, oh, my drug trade is going to be fine if I nuke America. Like, what the
which
fuck?
seems to be the answer for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Just yeah, it goes on the ridiculous there, but that's what gets Jungle Strike into Washington D.C. I guess, and
Yeah.
we'll get into that because we'll go over some of the levels here and just briefly kind of go over what you do in them. So Desert Strike comes out with four campaigns called Campaign 1 through 4, and the first one's called Air Superiority, and it's a desert level like all of them are.
Yeah.
And it follows destroy the radar and the airstrips and then rescue the spy. It seems very simple, but it wasn't.
Yeah. It's you just definitely like I said, when you're sifting through the menu, you have to like it helps to focus on one objective at a time and just try to complete it instead of like, well, there's a radar tower over here and then there's a power plant over here and whatever, just focus down, like try to it helps to know where shit is, and you will only find that out by playing it over and over again. But as I was kind of going through it, it took me several tries, but I was like, well, okay, well, now I can strategize because I know there's oil barrels up here and there's ammo over here. I can work my way down. But this actually, did you have anything on this? Or I had like a really goofy anecdote about this
Oh
campaign
yeah,
that like
you go
really
right
pissed
ahead.
me because I was like, I beat all of the objectives, and it was like, I don't know if there were four or five, but it was like return to the ship, and I was like, fuck yeah, I beat this finally, and all I have to do is fly back to the ship. And it was like I hit the pause menu and I saw the ship and it was in the water, and there I went, I landed. And then it was like, well, you didn't get the spy. I was like, what the fuck, what spy, where was he? So apparently there's like a little dude when you destroy the headquarters, and this guy runs out, and you have to like drop down the winch and catch him, and then he tells you the location of the spy, and then you go take him over there or whatever. But like once, okay, so I was like, fine, okay, I'll do that. I know what to do. So I went back and I played it again and did it. And then this time it didn't tell me to go back to the ship. So I don't know what I missed, but it was like I was running out of resources. And I was like, well, I could just fly around until I crash. But like, what the fuck? So it's like I couldn't get past the first campaign because like the first time it told me to go back to the ship when like I didn't have everything done. And then the next time I did everything and the ship never showed up. I was like, what the
Jesus.
fuck?
Yeah, and like that's kind of what makes me never want to play a game again.
Yeah. It's just
And
so finicky.
like my old gamer rage, I've kind of gotten over now. Instead of like flipping out at a game and cursing and swearing, I just turn it off and walk away for a while,
Oh, we're
calm
gonna
down, and
like
come back to it.
yeah, we're gonna find more games like this, and it's gonna like come back full swing.
Yeah, well, I can deal with a game that pisses me off as long as I can see the value in the game, and I'm really having a hard time seeing the value in these games. But
Yeah,
carrying on, go over these quickly because they don't really change that much. So you got campaign 2 called Scudbuster. You destroy a couple of things, you rescue some POWs. Literally the same thing as the last level,
yeah, just
just
like a
different
little
things
bit,
you're destroying.
like it's a little bit harder. There's a few extra, instead of there being like just little flat guns, it's like more of the little missile launcher things, or like there'll be a tank, driving around, you know.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the theme of this game is make it harder but the same. Because
Yeah,
guess what? In the next one, you rescue people and destroy stuff.
on the same map.
Yeah, and a desert level. I guess you're in Desert Storm. I'm going to forgive Desert Storm for having desert maps because really, I mean, if the theme of the game is Desert Storm, then it should have a desert.
Yeah,
So
but I mean, they still could have like there's not a lot of variation in a desert, but like it's very clearly the same layout where it's like water in the bottom corner, a little bit of sand
yeah,
dunes, and then just open desert with stuff in it.
yeah, okay, well, uh, and the final campaign's called Nuclear Storm, and guess what you have to do? Something different. You actually have to prevent something from being destroyed, the oil plant, and disable the nuclear plant, and then kill Bob, and that's your boss fight, and that's the end of it. And
Yeah.
one thing I like about these games is there's no real boss fight. So if you want a story-driven game, you don't have like random bosses every level. This one just has one objective for the entire game: kill Baba.
Yeah. It just sounds like Kielbasa.
Yeah, I almost say Kilbasa every time. That's why there's like a little pause before I say his name.
Yeah, Kielbasa. Well, hopefully we don't have to say it again because now I messed you up and you're going to say Kielbasa next
Oh,
time.
probably. I think I haven't written it. I don't have it written again in my notes. So that's basically Desert Strike in a nutshell. And do you want to? I'll let you do Jungle Strike because a little bit more in that one, but again, it follows the same formulaic level per level or level by level.
Yeah, Jungle Strike was definitely a juiced up sequel to Desert Strike. So that first mission was Washington D.C. Um, and there's definitely like very cool like you're going through and it's very sparsely populated because it's just it's a 16-bit chopper game. It's not going to be incredibly detailed, but there's definitely like Jefferson Memorial, Library of Congress, the White House is there. You got to save those monuments because there's little terrorist trucks everywhere.
And I love how
um
there's nothing else. Like you're just flying over grass, and there's no houses, there's no
no.
business, there's a few
Yeah,
roads. That's about it.
yeah, pretty much. It's just blank. It's like the real Washington D.C. It's just like a bunch of grass for like 3 blocks, and then a monument, and
Yeah,
then
this is
grass.
pre-colonial America. That's why it's all grass.
Yeah. I love the president's motorcade. I thought that was pretty cool. Um, there's terrorist car bombs and like weird little like I think there's like terrorist vehicles that looked like kind of like a bus. I think. But you had to kind of track those down and destroy them all and everything. Um,
Yeah, I love one. Like when I was looking this up, kind of the step by step of all these. One of the missions in the first mission is find Agent Akbar, and the only thing I could think of was Team America, World Police,
Agent
Durka Durka
Akbar.
Jihad.
Oh my god, yeah. Oh my, Jesus Christ.
Oh man, like yeah, that did not leave my mind. I even inserted that note so I'd remember to talk about it.
Yeah. That's
Like
great.
it just, God, why would you have Agent Akbar? I mean, like
That's
we could
like
even throw a friggin' was it Star Wars?
yeah,
Was it
Admiral Akbar.
Admiral
Don't get
Akbar?
Agent
Yeah,
Akbar. It's a
it's a
trap.
trap.
Yeah.
But
Um
I've
and
I've gone too far into that rabbit hole, so I'm just gonna dig myself out. Go ahead, Sam.
before I get into mission 2, like the one thing I wanted to call out that was kind of a funny little I don't even know if you'd call it an Easter egg or just a detail that they happen to throw in there, but in the mission briefing screens where there's like guys sitting in front, there's like, kind of an animation of guys sitting in front of a screen, and then there's like text talking about what you have to do for the next mission. On the left hand side, it is clearly Bill Clinton.
Oh yeah, you
And
sent me
he's
that
just,
picture today.
I can post a picture of it in the Discord or something, but it's just like so clearly Bill Clinton. It's just, I
Yeah,
just laughed.
unknown
I was like,
fact, Monica Lewinsky's in that picture too.
yeah, you just can't see her.
Yeah,
Um,
oh,
um, all right. So the second mission is Sub Hunt, and this one I did not get to this one. This is where I kind of have to lean heavily on the playthrough, but you end up picking up the hovercraft, and this is what we were talking about with the various
the vehicles, yeah.
vehicles, yeah. But like the hovercraft just looks so underpowered for everything that you have to fuck with in this mission. There are like these there's nuclear subs which are huge and have pretty good weaponry. There are speedboats all over the place that can kind of pelt you from any angle, and the only weapons to speak of on this hovercraft are like a machine gun, and then you can drop mines behind you. But like you basically have to be in front of whatever you're trying to attack. So um,
Yeah, and that doesn't sound. It didn't even look fun.
no, it
Like,
didn't.
no, it. But my biggest question is, how does Ibn Kalbasa there? And I said it on purpose that time. How does he get a friggin' nuclear sub, let alone two?
I don't know,
Like,
unless it's like the drug money, and then maybe they get it from the Soviets or something. I have no idea.
yeah, just a big plot hole for me. Big plot hole. It took me right out of the game.
Yeah. What is this doing here? And not only there were like three of them.
Was there
There were a
three?
whole
I thought there
bunch.
was only two.
Oh, two, well, two, three, whatever. It's more than definitely more than one, which is
Yeah, more
really
than one is a
outlandish.
big thing.
Like one would have been good, but
Yeah.
um yeah, anything else on that, or we can go into mission
No,
3, which is
you can
training
just keep
grounds.
going. Just
Yeah.
ride this bitch to the end.
Training grounds. This one didn't really have, this actually looked like a Desert Strike level to me. So you're going in and destroying enemy training camps, which are like these little kind of tent structures, and I think that was kind of the biggest. This was just like a juiced up Desert Strike mission to me.
Yeah,
Nothing
and
really
this
to
one
speak of.
had a few extra missions in it.
Yeah, there were a lot of different objectives, but there were a lot of the same type of objective
Yeah,
as Desert
destroy
Strike.
this, rescue that guy,
Yeah.
find this.
And then, oh, this is the one. This Night Strike one was nuts. This is one where you're actually in the jungle. This was the first mission that I saw that I was like, oh, now we're in the desert. Um, but it's like at night and during a thunderstorm, so everything is super dark. Like the color palette is like forest green to black. And then every now and then there'll be a lightning strike, which actually doesn't really make it that much easier to see. It just kind of like temporarily like fucks with your vision. And then like stuff is in the trees shooting at you. You can't even see where it's coming from. So I wouldn't see myself getting past this mission. I think this would be incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, the whole game was frustrating, so this
Yeah.
just
Well,
adds to it. It just piles this on the frustration cake.
yeah, this level looked the hardest of any of them. Um, and then you have Pulso City, which I don't. I don't remember too much of this one, but this is the motorcycle level. So,
Yeah, okay. So
um,
sorry, it wasn't Washington. Like I said earlier, it was Postal City.
but it's another like, urban warfare type
The
with
map
no
can be
buildings.
easily confused for Washington, D.C. because they literally have grass and buildings sparsely placed throughout the map.
Yes, it just palette swap. Just take the Jefferson Memorial out and just put a random building where people are making drugs. So yeah, this is where you're getting down to the nitty gritty of fighting these guys, and you've got to destroy their drug processing plants and destroy their counterfeiting operation and their power grid and all that shit. So
All while riding your sweet ass motorcycle.
all in a motorcycle. Uh, Mission 6 was cool. That was Snow Fortress. This one did look pretty hard. And a lot of the structures that you had to destroy were actually kind of buried under the snow and had like a little, I don't know if it's like a periscope or like a little silo, but you would kind of shoot at it and then it would like open up like a hangar or something, or like a garage that was underneath. So it was like, like the enemies had their built-in stuff under the snow, and I thought that was kind of cool. So yeah, it's just more of the same. Destroying radar sites, destroying missile sites. The tanks look pretty tough. There are a lot of towers that are, with those little assholes that shoot the missiles at you.
Motherfuckers.
You've got to locate and destroy nuclear warheads, so that's good.
Oh yeah,
um,
shooting nukes is usually a good thing.
yeah, you just blow them
Yeah,
up.
you definitely want to fire missiles at nuclear weapons.
Yeah, don't worry, they're fine. Um, and then Mission 7 was River Raid. This was another one that looked very jungly, which I appreciated. And it had like this really winding river that reminded me of the Amazon. So I thought that was kind of a cool touch. But this is where you get the airstrip, and you hop in that F-117 stealth bomber. Like I said, it was under some green netting on a green surface. So I don't really know how. Like I could see getting stuck on this mission forever and not knowing where the fuck to find this goddamn
Or
F one
accidentally hitting the
seventeen.
netting and realizing the plane's there.
Well, and here's the other thing too, that just popped into my mind. Why do you need the F-117 to destroy the bridges? Can't you just skip it and fly around the helicopter and do the same thing?
I honestly have no idea, but I would think that the F-117 would have actual bombs that would destroy things a lot quicker than the helicopter.
Yeah, I
It's the
don't know.
only
Play
reason I
through.
can think of that the stealth fighter would be used in this,
Yeah, or maybe if you were to try to do it with the chopper, it
or
just
maybe
wouldn't
it's a
work.
speed thing so you don't get shot down.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It just seemed weird. I was like, wait, this thing handles differently and could be not to your advantage to not be able to, helicopters are nimble, where
Yeah, I've never met a helicopter pilot who could jump into just any old airplane, especially an advanced fighter, and just instantly know how to work it.
well, he knows how to work everything. He's got his
Yeah,
motorcycle
that's
license. He
true.
can
You are the ace pilot.
he can drive a hovercraft. He can do everything. So, and that's why this
Hovercraft.
game takes weeks and weeks and weeks to master, because you're
Yeah,
actually qualified as a pilot once you're done.
yeah. It takes weeks to master, but it took the ace pilot years to get that good.
That's right. And then mission 8, we have mountains, which actually, when you're moving from level to level, it's all on like kind of an overworld map, which is different than Desert Strike. Like there's definitely um, a tactical map that, like Bill Clinton and his friends are looking at while they're sending you on these missions, and there's different points like, okay, you're definitely going here now, and this is mountains, and you were here and that's snow and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of cool to have that between missions. But yeah, it's more of the same. But this one had the villa, like the drug lord's villa, and you have to
Yeah, the
take the drug lord.
highly guarded one, like a lot of defense systems around it.
And I think both games did this, but and this game had a lot of like, you have to sit there and like just blast away at this building and then blow a hole in it, and then like a bunch of people will run out and you'll have to pick them all up. And you can actually reach capacity of like how many people you can fit in a chopper, which I didn't think would be that many because I didn't think that that's what Comanche or Apache
Yeah, I
helicopters were
thought it was a
for.
two-person little deal there, but I don't
Yeah, like
even
where are
know
you
what the
putting all these
helicopter
people?
looks like.
Yeah, where are you putting these people? And like when you're refueling, you're just picking up barrels. Like, what are you doing with those barrels?
Yeah, you know those rockets you fire off? That's where they all go, right in those slots.
Oh yeah, if you yeah if you've used some of your ammunition, they're just like on the wings, like stuffed into the rocket tubes.
Also, if you're pulling up barrels, who's refueling the helicopter in midair?
That's what I was thinking.
Is
Like what?
fucking X-Man getting out there just like go right into the fuel tank?
Well, yeah, he's the winch man. He's so good at that that he's like he's filling the fuel tank, so he can't be bothered to like shoot anyone.
Oh, of course not. Yeah, he's just sitting there like siphoning the fuel from the can there right into the helicopter.
He's probably huffing it back there too. So
Let's not get into X-Man's drug problem or his gas
yeah,
sniffing
he's
problem.
yeah. We hope you're better, X Man.
Yeah,
Um,
seriously.
but one of the things that I don't think we mentioned before, you have to take this drug lord alive, and when you lower the winch down, there's like a little dude on it, and he
That's
like
X-Man.
yeah, and he captures the guy. So like if you're lowering the winch for an MIA, a guy that's your own, it's just a ladder that comes down. But if it's a guy that you have to capture and is trying to run away from you, it lowers down with another dude on it and they just grab him. I think
That's
that's really
honestly a
funny
nice
looking.
touch. Like it's not just
Yeah.
a generic hook ladder or whatever. At least they actually kind of did something to kind of say that yeah, you're trying to capture this guy.
Yeah, I love that. And
Considering how little detail the people on the ground actually have, like, you really can't distinguish outside of their color of their clothes. So
yeah,
you
the
know,
guys that you were supposed to capture had like red shirts on.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the only way you know what's going on. Otherwise, they just look like animorph. I'm not going to say the word. I can't. Just blobs.
Anthropomorphic. Yeah,
Thank
they're
you,
just
Jesus.
little people shaped blobs.
Yes, blobs is
Um
better. Blobs is
yeah,
more scientific.
blobs. So once you take out the drug lord and do a couple other things, I think you have to destroy all their vehicles and all that shit. Then you go back to Washington D.C. and you have to protect Mr. Bill Clinton on his way to Air Force One. Destroy armored cars, all that, capture the generals. But then this is where you kill Ortega and uh, Ibn
And
what's
kielbasa.
Kilbasa. Yeah, there we go. Um, and then the 18 wheelers with nuclear missiles. Those are just driving through Washington D.C.
Oh
and
yeah,
you,
just all easy peasy lemon squeezy.
yeah, and your solution is just to blow them up, which should be fine.
Yeah, and they're all like this one was kind of funny too because they're all parked until you get them in the screen. Then they drive towards the White House.
Yeah,
And
but
the
like,
video I was watching, the last one he killed was like headed right for the White House, and he blew it up right in front. And I was just like,
but
"Oh,
hold,
come on!"
but let's take a step back. It's a missile. What the fuck is it doing on a truck? Don't you launch it? Like, oh, we're gonna bomb Washington D.C. Let's throw it on the back of a truck and drive it there and then launch it from in this. No, like what
Well,
are
maybe
these?
these guys didn't actually know how missiles worked. I mean, the ones I shot out of my helicopter didn't seem to do what they were supposed to.
Yeah, I'm assuming not. I mean, maybe they play tested some things where they like came in from different angles in the sky and you just shoot it out of the sky, but that probably would have been really really difficult.
Yeah, because they'd have to make them go missile fast. Otherwise, what's the point? No missile
No,
travels at 2 miles an hour there. So,
no, they would go F-117 fast, which is helicopter fast.
well, it actually would have been a good way to use the F-117, or at least make an F-15 or something like that. And they have to take out these missiles by flying up to them and shooting them down on a level where you just go left to right real fast. I don't know. If I
Yeah.
designed the game, that's what I would have done.
Oh, damn. Almost like a space harrier type thing. That would
Yeah,
be
kind
cool.
of.
Yeah.
But it would have added a twist that nobody would have expected. But again, I didn't design the game; it was made by EA, and everybody knows how great EA is nowadays.
Yeah. Um well, that's pretty much it for these games. The only other thing we didn't mention on both games is that the MS-DOS versions of these games each had a bonus level. So,
You remember MS DOS?
yeah, I do.
Oh my god!
Uh Actually, we did have this game for MS DOS. I think Jungle Strike. My
Oh,
dad
did
had a
you?
copy of it on hard disk,
The
or
only
like,
MS-DOS system I had before Windows came out was I had a orange and black screen, like a monochrome screen.
uh huh.
So I couldn't play very many games because games depend on color, and there was only two colors, so you couldn't distinguish anything. And I remember like Police Quest, I used to play on it, and we couldn't finish the game because we had to find something of a specific color, and we just couldn't figure it out. And there was no Google at the time.
Oh man, yeah. No, I remember definitely. I have memories of like launching certain things out of DOS, which is like,
Oh my god, yeah.
I wonder if my kids would be able to figure that out nowadays. Like if I showed them, they would have no fucking clue.
Oh, I don't know. Like if like my kid's taking programming courses there, so he runs through some PowerShell kind of commands and stuff like that. So he understands how like he could probably do some stuff in it, but he doesn't know what DOS is.
Right. Yeah, but I guess he would be familiar with it because from programming, it's a command based system. So yeah, it's just interesting. Like it just really brings me back. It's one of those things that I'll always associate it with that. I do call it a floppy disk or a hard disk, like the square
Yeah,
plastic ones.
depends on how you talk to me. Wink.
Okay.
No, a hard disk is the one that goes inside the computer. A floppy disk is the one you put in the A drive.
Yes. Okay. So yeah. So I think it would have been a hard disk, the little black one.
No, no,
Um.
they're both floppy disks. But
Okay. Then it
yeah,
is a
there's
floppy.
the 5.5 inch and then the 3.14 megabytes or 3.4 megabytes. I can't remember how big they were. It's been so long. But
Yeah.
no,
I
the hard disk is what your computer runs off of inside the computer.
No, okay. So then yeah, it is a floppy disk, but it's the smaller version that had like
Yeah,
the black plastic,
the
whatever.
one that was popularized to put all your files on at work until they
Yes.
became obsolete, and now you just have like 1,000 of them sitting in a archive folder or
Right.
archive room.
Or those little boxes to like organize them, which
Oh yeah,
yeah.
you don't know where they
Um
came from, but they were always there.
they were always there. So yeah, oh, and then sorry, the jungle strike. We got sidetracked by old technology. But the mission 10 is eco threat on MS DOS. I didn't really
I didn't
see
look
these
them
or
up.
anything.
Like honestly, I didn't care.
Yeah, it's like, well, if they had extra levels, cool, good for
Yeah.
them.
All right. Well, speaking of not caring, that is Desert Strike and Jungle Strike in a nutshell. Sam, what are you thinking this game deserves sort of score?
Um, gosh, I mean, it doesn't really hold up to modern standards, but I recognize that it's a really kind of a cool concept and kind of a unique game. So I will give it like a 5.5, 5.5.
5.5. Wow. Um,
What about you? Praise or wrath on this one? I
I
think
think
you.
it's going to go more Wrath for me because, like you said, I do kind of recognize that this game was kind of unique for its time there, but it did not revolutionize anything. And even with its multitude of sequels there, it never really broke out as the big thing, or it never really improved on the overall concept. So I'm going to give
Right.
it a 3 out of 10.
Ooh. All
Yeah,
right.
this is going to be probably the first worst game of this podcast.
Yeah, we're starting off the year with a bang. Well, Super Mario RPG is good, but like, yeah, the first one we actually recorded in calendar 2024
Yeah,
is a stinker.
yeah.
I could see myself though, like going back to it and playing it because it's just, yeah, it's one of those things where if you do have the time to sit and kind of play it, it is a fun game and you can master it if you take
That's
the
where it
time.
kind of got its points. Is I don't want to say I would never play it again, but I don't think I'm going to rush to play it in the near future. So I
No.
got to let the stink of it kind of disappear. It's like Wendy's. Wendy's is delicious until you've had it.
That's so well put. Oh, and yeah, you know that the chili is just the beef that's too old and they got to use it.
Oh yeah, that's why you always have a chili with a baconator because you don't want to live anymore.
Oh God, that sounds like a lethal combination.
I did that
Uh,
once, and I ended up with the meat sweats so bad that I couldn't even walk up a flight of stairs.
Jesus Christ!
Yeah, don't do it. It's bad. And when you
Don't do
get
it,
the
folks.
chili squirts there, oh my god, worse than Taco Bell.
No. All right, let's throw this on the tier list, shall we? I'm just reviewing where we've put things so far and kind of where I think this game fits in. Um, Gosh, I'm kind of like waffling between. I want to give it a C tier. What do you
Really, a
think?
C tier? Wow. Okay, yeah. I was going right down for the F tier there. Like I was going to go right for the bottom
Oh,
because,
really?
like I said, this is the worst game we've done so far, and this is
Oh,
11
this game is
episodes
better
in.
than Lion King.
Uh, you know what? I'll put it on par with Lion King. I'll. How about I give it an E tier. You give it a C. We'll meet halfway and give it a D.
Okay, because that's kind of where I was thinking it probably should go, but
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, if it's a game that I would want to play again, then it would at least be a C tier or above. But yeah, it'll be our first D tier game.
yeah.
It's definitely better than Lion King and Ren and Stimpy. Come on.
That's true. Okay, I'll give you that one. Those two games are just special. But no, all right, we'll do D tier. I agree with you. We're good to go.
All right. Awesome.
Um,
Yeah,
sorry. Anyways, so that's going to do it for another episode of Retrotopia. Sam, would you sound us off?
absolutely. Next time we'll be talking about the classic NES racing game Micro Machines. Until next time, this has been Sam and Brian.